What is up, soul family? I got a very interesting video for you today, for you guys today. Um, and basically, I explain the fourth, the third, fourth, and fifth dimension in detail, and I explain their relation, and I explain the multidimensional nature of reality and the transtemporal, transspatial nature of light. Of objective and spiritual light. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into a little diagram here which explains the fourth, fifth, and third dimension, and I'm gonna break it down to y'all real fast. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so here's my diagram. Basically, this is the diagram that I use to explain the third, fourth, and fifth dimension. So first we have, our third dimension. Well, first let me explain the metaphor of this entire diagram, right? So let's say you have a body of water that consists of all of the possibilities of life, all of the possibilities of reality. Like literally all of them. Like the possibility that dinosaurs never went extinct, the possibility of you being able to fly, the possibility of you having telepathy, the possibility of you doing pretty much anything in reality. I see like I got like a flying pig, you know what I'm saying? The possibility of a fairy realm, like any fucking thing. There are infinite possibilities. So let's say you have a sea of all of these possibilities, right? And you have a sun that basically shines down and shines its light throughout this entire infinite ocean of basically everything that could ever exist, right? What's going on here is basically the light of God, or the omnipresent light, or spiritual light, is basically like its sun rays are pervading all of reality. The awareness, I guess you could say, of God is pervading all of reality. Because first off, if it's kind of like the existential question of like, if a tree never, if a tree falls and no one is there to hear it, did it ever happen? You know what I'm saying? And the emphasis or the implication of this question of if there's no tree around, if there's nobody around to hear a falling tree, did it ever happen? The implication is you're in the dark, so you're not aware it doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? So by understanding that, first, light is infinitely tied in with awareness. If no one was aware, if there was no omnipresent, omnipotent awareness throughout the entire universe, there would be no universe at all. So the light of God, basically, is the ever-pervading light rays that penetrate all of reality. This is emphasized in the book, one of my favorite books, Dark Light Consciousness by Edward Bruce Bynum. A must grab, like, period. Like, no end, if, ands about that shit. You got to get this motherfucking book. But even Edward Bruce Bynum, with a PhD, and he goes into the matrix of reality to describe his light as a fifth dimensional force. But with this explanation, he doesn't disqualify light particles. And I'll explain light as objective light. And he goes into that too. As in the dynamics of objective light, or three-dimensional physical light. And let me go to the page. The dynamics of subjective light, or what I call spiritual light, which is the ever-pervading, omnipresent awareness of what we call God, which exists through us. Like, for example, like we're only I can go back to the example of if there was no tree, or if there was nobody to hear a tree falling, did it ever happen? Basically, you were in the dark about it. But the way that God, or like what we call God, how God sees all of the infinite possibilities is through the individual consciousnesses on the fourth and third dimensional plane. So basically, you are the light of God. You through your awareness, how I kind of see it is like you're on a divine mission for God. And like you see for God. You are God. You are God's eyes. You carry the divine spark, the divine light, because you see your tiny, we're all pieces to the puzzle, right? You are the eyes through which like reality is known, and the light of God or the creator light is shined out through space-time, or through the realm of imagination, which is the realm of infinite possibilities on all dimensions and all throughout time, through all time and throughout all space. So that's kind of what I'm trying to convey. What's the word? I don't know. Convey. Yeah, that's the concept I'm trying to convey here. Is basically that there is a fifth dimensional light, a light that pervades all possibilities, all probabilities, and all throughout space and time, that allows reality to be interacted with. Or we as individuals, through our awareness, through our consciousness, interact with the infinite possibilities of reality. But this doesn't explain objective light, like the light of this, right? The objective light of particles is, first let me explain it like this, right? So the spiritual light is basically the pure light of your consciousness, right? You are the way, the truth, the life, and the light. Just as Jesus said, you are the light. You know what I'm saying? He said he's the light of the world. That applies to us too. That spiritual light, when it interacts with space-time, when that light comes down through reality, Edward Bruce Bynum talks about it in his book, it seems as if the light gets slowed down, right? How I kind of imagine it is like you have imagine an upside down pool, or like a huge rain cloud made out of complete water. I mean, complete light. We're talking golden, pure God creator light, right? How it is like light from the all, right? Light from your consciousness, light from consciousness as a whole. Basically comes down from its pure being state, pure I amness. It comes down into space and time throughout all possibilities and all probabilities. And basically, how I kind of see it is like the, you know how what is it, like the water cycle? This is like a water cycle of a light. Basically, we come from like the divine light, the divine spark, the I am, the one. We come from the one, right? Boom. We do our divine duty, our divine mission of basically being the eyes of God through all of possibility and all of probability and all of space and all of time. We do that. We come down, bloop, as like a water droplet of pure light, and we explore all of reality, boom, 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 or whatever, all of space and time and all of possibility, probability, and we rise back up. We evaporate, just like how a water droplet would evaporate from the ocean, and we return back to source. And it's just like infinite. It's like an infinite cycle of it's basically like a God cycle instead of a water cycle. I just can call it what, like a God cycle, you know. Yeah. Because since we can equate this light with like the light of your I am, because without you being aware, there is no light, there is no being outside of your consciousness, right? But once you realize that you are the one, you are God, you are all of consciousness, then you realize that by this example of spiritual light, that you are light, right? So like this phenomenon of spiritual light pervading throughout all of reality is basically can directly translate to your consciousness pervading through all of reality and all of space and all of time and all throughout all possibilities. And it's obvious how, and I've explained how the light pervades, you know what I'm saying, how awareness pervades all of reality based off the principle of what you don't see, there is no knowing. But once you know that you're all and through your consciousness you experience reality, so and your consciousness is basically all that you have, so there is no reality outside of your consciousness, therefore all of reality is subjective. I've explained that. Now we can kind of go into the dynamics of the third and fourth dimension. So there is a consciousness, a God force, the omnipresent light, the spiritual light that pervades all reality, right? Explaining the fourth dimension is basically, the fourth dimension is the realm of all possibilities. Once there is a convergence of possibilities, or there is a vortex in the field of possibility, it seeps or it projects down through the fourth dimension and it densifies into the third dimension of probabilities. The third dimension is where probabilities come into play. And this is where basically like time continuum comes into play, right? Because you in the realm of probability, you can't be at two places at once. You can't be on Mars and Earth at the same time. You know what I'm saying? You can't walk left and right at the same time. But in the realm of possibilities, imagine it like this, right? So let's say you walked into a room, right? And you have all of this space to move, but you can't move outside of this space. Within this space, if you were to look at this, or the probability, if you were to look at this from a fourth dimensional perspective, there is a possibility of you being everywhere at this room. Like, imagine like the real you, and there's like a translucent like clone of you. This, like, there's a possibility, like you're right here, but there's a possibility you could be here. You could walk from here to here to here to here to here to point B. You could walk from here to here to here to here to here to point B, and you could be literally be everywhere in this room. Possibly, there's a possibility of you being everywhere in this room. One thing that my teacher taught me, like, let's say outside of this example of the box, one thing that stuck with me, my astronomy teacher, is like, due to like quantum mechanics and the possibility of quantum tunneling, it's literally possible, because basically quantum tunneling is basically like miraculous, like particle like transportation. Like a particle could be here and then tunnel through like a physical space that it shouldn't be able to go through, and like basically like teleport. That's quantum tunneling, right? It's theoretically possible that your entire body could quantum tunnel to Mars, which the probability of that is insanely, like, you couldn't even chart that down. You couldn't even write down the it would be like 0.0. It'd be like a point followed, like a decimal followed by like a billion million zeros or some shit. Like the possibility of you, the probability of you, all of your cells, all of your particles, quantum tunneling through space and time to Mars is not very probable, but it is possible. That's the principle of the fourth dimension, that anything is possible. So in our more mundane example of you being in a room and you're trying to get to point A to point B, there's a possibility of you walking every fucking where. But let's say you set the intention just to walk straight. There is a possibility of you walking straight, of course, but now that you've set your intention, you've mapped out in your mind, you've mapped out the direction you're going to take. Therefore, there is a convergence of probabilities, right? And that's the path that's taken from point A to point B. Let's say you have a ball in your hand, right? There's a possibility of you throwing it in any direction, but as soon as you cock your hand at a certain angle, let's say if you're a baseball pitcher, you don't have to throw it at the batter. You could throw it at somebody in the audience. You could throw it at the goddamn whoever the dude behind it. I don't know sports. I don't know shit about sports. But you could throw it at the audience. You could throw it at your own teammate. You could throw it anywhere, because we're in a 3-dimension. You could throw it in any direction. But as soon as you set the intention to throw it at the batter, and you set your arm, you set your intention, and your body kinetically moves in the direction of throwing it at the batter, like you boom, and once you release it, now, yeah, there's a possibility of it going in any direction, but due to us being in a denser, due to us being in a 3-dimension where probability is in play, you have now closed out all of the possibilities of that ball being anywhere else. And due to trajectory and shit like that, due to the probability path that you just made, the ball will move from your hand to the batter, and the batter will hit the ball in home run or whatever. That's just another example of possibility, probability, and how we live. Don't mind that art, that's just other shit. And how we live in a holographic universe of infinite possibilities projected into the realm of probabilities due to a convergence of possibilities. And this is all made possible through consciousness, or the creator, or the omnipresent light, or spiritual light, or fifth dimensional light. Boom. Light as a fifth dimensional force. You are this fifth dimensional force that pervades all of reality once you look at yourself from the highest perspective, or if you just look at your pure consciousness, because everyone's consciousness is the same. It's just awareness. It's just pure awareness. So I hope that explained basically reality. There's going to be a part 2 where I explain basically how to transcend the waters of reality and to return back to the God light, basically. So stay tuned for that. That's coming out soon. Catch you later. Peace.